Montenegro.
So beautiful. Alpa, are you recording?
We're all recording now. Hello, beautiful. Hi, Charlie.
Okay.
Hi, Alpa. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm really well.
I only just got on in time because I've got the builders in building me a studio at home.
Oh, nice.
Downstairs.
Yeah, the Charlie Ward production.
Sorry?
The Charlie Ward production studios now, because you.
No, I'll still have the same picture behind me, but it will just be slightly different. But yeah, the basics of it will be the same. But the only reason for that, Alpa, you've been into my little shed down by the swimming pool. Yeah, exactly. If I do interviews in the middle of the night, I wake up the neighbours.
Yeah.
They can hear me. So
is it okay if I start off with a prayer, as I usually do?
You can do, by all means.
I normally do it off, but Shelley knows this. Charlie, you know this, but it's really important at this time as well. So, Shri Ganeshaya Namo Namaha Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Susamaprabha Nirvikanam Kurume Deva Sarvakaya Susarvada Om Ganganpate Namo Namaha. There we go. There we go.
Beautiful.
So, Shelley, I'm so glad that you're here with Charlie. Shelley wanted to speak to you. She's a very
happy to be here.
Exuberant 17-year-old and very, very much awake. And she's been following you for a long time, her and her family. Did a wonderful show with her on my channel a few weeks ago and was received really, really well. If you just speak to Shelley, and I'm going to let her speak in a minute, she's just a very different 17-year-old, and it's really important, I feel, which is one of the main reasons I wanted her to speak to you. And when I spoke to her, is that people in her generation really don't know what's going on.
No.
And it was really interesting to hear, you know, Shelley's take on everything from the youth, you know, the youth of today, Charlie, because it's really important, you know, moving forward, you know, how they move forward in this. So Shelley, I'll let you say a few words.
Yeah. So first of all, like the youth, it's, you know, not a lot of people, the youth especially, they're not really awake. I'm homeschooled now, but when I went to school, like, kids are amazing, right? But they're taught the wrong things. And like I told Alpa when we were having a conversation, it is so easy to brainwash kids. And it's also very easy to de-brainwash them, right? So like, it's crazy what's going on, but you know, the world is getting better. So these kids won't have to, you know, go through hell, like, you know, because we were on a timeline, like I told Alpa, we were going towards destruction. And we literally snapped out of that timeline, and now we're going towards the light. And, you know, it's like, I don't know what to say. It's so miraculous what's going on. I'm just so excited for my generation, you know, for the future and everything. And I say that we're going to be leaders. The younger generation, we're going to be leaders very soon. And the world needs us. And I feel like more kids and more teens need to use their voice because, you know, kids also don't know what's going on. You know, kids are also a little bit worried and stressed and confused. And so they need someone, I think they need somebody who is like their age to explain them what's really going on, because it's a little bit harder for them to try to understand from somebody that's older. They might not get it. So I just kind of want to be there, and I want to kind of like speak their language. And for any of the kids that are worrying out there, like, it's all going to be okay. So I just wanted to talk about some things today. Yeah.
Well, you're the second youngest person I know. The youngest person that's cottoned on is my little man, Justin.
And Justin.
He's 11 years old, but he's, I've tried not to indoctrinate or brainwash him, but tried to get him to do his own investigation, which he loves doing. And when you let a child express themselves and express love, care, truth, then you see a completely different child. And his inner battles are coming from what the teachers are telling him at school that he knows is incorrect. But I've told him just to be patient and be calm, because the truth will always come out. And
always.
If you go up against a teacher, because of the ego that you're dealing with, that I'm the boss and you do as you're told, you're going to fight a losing battle. And this is where you need to learn humility and just say, look, time will tell. but the hardest thing for Justin will be not to slap the teacher in the face when the truth comes out.
I can relate to him so much.
Shelley,
Exactly, but it's beautiful that you're a young lady that's prepared to stand up for what's right against the other little idiot, what's her name, Greta Thunberg, who's been paid lots of money to put out a narrative and suddenly realized at 18 that she's been completely misled and lied to.
That's right.
Like, it was very interesting when we talked about when they started forcing down us about global warming and a carbon footprint. We need carbon dioxide, by the way.
There's no climate change crisis going on. The earth knows how to heal herself. She, like, even if we would have destroyed it all the way, she knows how to rebuild herself back up. There's no climate crisis whatsoever.
Exactly right. And this is what they're struggling with. If for anybody who's actually been to the Antarctic and the Arctic, there's more ice there than there's ever been before, and they can't work it out. Yeah,
no
they can't
way.
work it out.
That's crazy.
But yes, we go through a cycle. You know, nobody complained in the Ice Age that it was too cold, did they? We go in cycles, and this is beautiful. We see different things grow, and we see. You know, I've traveled all over the world. One of the countries that I lived in, which I loved the most, was Singapore, because it's a tropical rainforest, and you see different animals and different insects that you don't see in England. And then when I was in Australia, we went up to Darwin above Cairns, and there was different fruits I'd never seen before because the climate's different. I've been into Africa. When I say Africa, I mean Burkina Faso, which is like third world Africa, but beautiful people. I mean, beautiful people. There's so many different parts of the world. You know, you're in a beautiful part of the world that used to be the former Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
Been broken down into Serbia and Montenegro, and these countries are beautiful. I've actually driven through there because my wife, my wife she's Turkish, but she grew up in Varna in Bulgaria. And like when you're madly in love, which I still am with her, she had a lot of stuff down in Varna. And I just said, you know what? I could drive there and pick it up. She's gone, you're joking. And I got there in 2 days. I drove 18 hours one day and then slept for 4 hours and then 18 hours the next day and got there. It's a hell of a drive. I got to Italy in one day and then from Italy to Varna the next. But I went through that part of the world and it was just beautiful. I got stopped by the police.
Europe is so beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a beautiful part of the world. And you as a young lady, when you start traveling, I know as a young man, when I traveled, all the racism disappears.
All of it. Because you get to see so many different, you notice that we're all one, right? At the end of the day. So it's like when you go, I travel a lot. And, you know, when I go from country to country, I notice that we're all one anyway. So it's like the racism completely disappears. And, you know, racism never even existed. It's just that they created it. You know, they always want to blame, you know, humanity for, you know, global warming and racism. But at the end of the day, you know, if kids wouldn't have been taught in school about racism, we wouldn't have even had that problem.
I think Shelley's a really different view as well because she's been homeschooled, which is really important. And if we look what's going on, especially here in the UK, being in a lockdown, it's an opportunity for parents really to sort of take control of the way their children think now and, you know, not subordinate. Schools teach you, like you said, Charlie, like, you know, if Justin is to say something against his teachers, it's that subordination culture where we're right and you're wrong. So it doesn't really give room for expansion of the mind and the expansion to critically think. So this is where the car crash is happening. So you're actually dictated to what you're taught. I had my 6-year-old niece who was really happy that Trump ages ago had got the COVID. And she was like, oh, he's got COVID. I just hope he dies. And I've said this before on my shows. I was absolutely appalled because the narrative of what the educational system is doing to our children is insane. And Shelley, you've been homeschooled. Tell me, how do you find yourself amongst your sort of friends group that are schooled at the moment and the importance now where the opportunity for parents who are homeschooling their children by force, but this is a brilliant opportunity for all parents.
Yeah, first of all, homeschooling is the best thing that ever happened to me, and I decided to become homeschooled myself. So mostly because me and my family are traveling from country to country all the time, you know, I had no choice. So it's not because if I would have went to school, I would have had to, you know, get rid of friends over and over again, and that's traumatizing. So I decided to become homeschooled, and honestly, that's the best thing that ever happened to me. But I still am connected to some kids from, you know, the schools that I used to go to, and I don't connect to them anymore. Even though they follow me on Instagram and they like what I'm doing and they're like, you know, my followers, and there's no connection anymore. And because sometimes I don't post controversial stuff, but once in a while I might say something and then they totally lose it. And, you know, kids don't really have their own opinions anymore, right? So whatever they hear on the news, they just accept it as is. Whatever they learn in school, they accept it. Like history, for example. I remember doing history. That was my least favorite subject, even though it's the most interesting subject. Why? Because I intuitively knew that something was wrong, that everything I was learning was completely fake, right? And I just don't really connect to my kids from school anymore. And I think parents, if you're homeschooling your kids out there, like, good job, because this is true education. I don't even consider myself homeschooled. I think I'm unschooled. So like I literally, when I was homeschooled 2 years ago, I would do like a system. I don't do a system anymore. I literally just learn this. I learn the truth. I, you know, do all of these other things. So I would consider myself unschooled at this point, and honestly, it's changed my life forever. So
I like your geography and history lessons, because that involves traveling to each place to find out the truth and knowing where it is and knowing its history. I think that's the best geography and history lesson ever.
it's
Whereabouts
crazy.
were your parents from originally?
Yeah, so my mom is from Belarus.
Okay.
Do you know where that is? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So she's from Belarus and my dad's from Israel. So,
Okay.
and I'm Canadian. Yeah, Canadian.
Okay. You know, you look at that mix, and I remember when I first started dating my wife, and I worked for a number of sovereign households in the Middle East, and I was told by one of the top boys that did I realize how I would have to change to being a Muslim to marry my wife, and I said, could you explain to me where it says that, because it doesn't say it in the Quran, and it doesn't say it in the Bible. I think you'll find that's a bit man-made, and we had a little bit of an exchange, and that's when I described what faith and religion was all about, and he accepted it in the end, but he had to do his own research, because I had a little cheeky way of getting people to understand faith and religions as like a body, you know, one
Yeah.
faith, one religion's an ear, one's a nose, one's a mouth, one's arms, one's eyes, one's the heart, one's the lungs. They're all very, very different, but they're all very, very necessary. And you have to remember that one religion, one faith is the arsehole, a
Exactly.
very necessary part of the body. It still needs the right hand to keep it clean. So we all need each other, but we're all very, very different. And he looked at me and he was saying, so which faith do you think the Muslims are? I said, well, you tell me. I said, you know, the Jews and the Muslims and the Christians and the Catholics and the Protestants and the Sunnis and Shias will all want to claim that they're the heart and they're the lungs and they're this. I said, you might find out you're the little finger. I don't know. You're very, very necessary.
That's right.
That was my way of describing to him how we all fit together, and the body has learned to look after itself. And if our finger hurts, we try and make it better. We don't cut it off.
If we go back in history and if we look at everything, we're talking about the division in humanity. This predates like many centuries. And ultimately, when we just break it down in a simplistic form, it's just arguments between people that my truth is better than your truth, or
That's right.
you know, this I'm entitled to this land rather than you, and my religion's better than your religion. And ultimately, spirituality got diluted along the way. The scriptures of the Vedas, which you know, discusses, which highlights spirituality as not a religion, but just a way of being and a way of life. and the yogic culture, which the Sanatana Dharma embraces and actually talks about, is how you are as a being, and a spiritual being, a conscious being. And what's happened in humanity now is that these we've contaminated and convoluted our train of thought, over time and over time. So when you don't watch the news, or when you don't watch the media, you actually realize that you're not tainted and contaminated by this frequency that the news operates. And that's all been designed to actually endorse fear within us, create that fear porn with humanity. So when you step away from it, you realize that, oh my God, you can actually see that it's all, it doesn't make sense. It's actually the vibration it operates at, it's lies, and you can feel it straight away. So someone like yourself, Shelley, who has been away from the schooling system that's indoctrinated children, indoctrinated all of us. We were all put through the education system, but if we didn't follow it through, you actually realize that the streetwise are more prone to waking up a lot quicker than the liberal elite. So and this is where the sort of the disparity in humanity is at the moment, with this pseudo intelligence that we are up against, and the non-believers that think we're the crazy ones. So it's what we consume, and it's how we perceive things. So two things that are important here is intention and perception. What are your intentions? So we in the truth community are all going out there, doing our research, deciphering, discerning the information that we get, not blindly believing the media, which has been the only source that has given us the information. And I think it's important for people within your generation that really learn this. And Shelley, I think that you'll be a great leader in this movement, and I always encourage that.
Thank you. Yeah, so first of all, my intentions for everybody who are watching is I just wanted to say, guys, calm down. Like, everything's gonna be okay. Because even like a person like my dad, sometimes he questions, like, oh, is Trump actually doing something, or like, what's going on? And our faith is being tested right now.
Oh, hold on, let's just pause it. He's back.
Hello.
Oh, there you are. You're differently placed now. Everything, we're all good? Okay, so yes.
He's muted.
Oh. Oh, yeah, he's muted.
There we go.
There we go.
Yes.
I can go back. I'm recording as well now. Yeah. Sorry about that. That was the electrician playing games. It wasn't your fault or my fault. It was just a bit frustrating, but never mind. We have editing for that.
It's okay. I like these raw, unmanufactured, manicured shows. I think that brings the authenticity into all of this,
Of course it does.
The bloopers.
The outtakes, yeah. We were talking about homeschooling and the benefits of that. And I think it's so important. And it made me smile when I thought about your geography and history lessons, because going to places and finding out. I remember when I went to Israel for the first time. I was born and brought up in a religious cult, Shelley, from birth.
Oh, wow.
So I said I was brainwashed. They've told me that it was indoctrination. And you're only brainwashed if you're a Muslim. If you're a Christian, you're indoctrinated. It's funny that, really, how they use the words against you. But I remember, all my teachings, etc., so what I believed. And then I had the privilege of going to Israel and Palestine on a what they call a blanket tour from Cyprus, from Ayia Napa. I went to Ayia Napa to have a party, but I decided, hey, I could take this blanket trip and go and see Jerusalem and the Mount of Olives and Bethlehem. And I thought, yeah, that sounds like fun. And let's go and see if it's anything like I was taught as a kid. And of course, it's not. Actually, the Mount of Olives was a building site. I was like, wow, that's not what I thought. And then Bethlehem, the manger. I'm a farming boy. I know what a manger looks like. There's nothing like that. And then I found out, of course, that when you start looking into stuff, it was all built 300 years after Jesus died. And then the penny dropped of 300 years. Hang on, that's 12 generations. I didn't even believe my granddad. So it's been handed down stories. I was like, this is where faith comes in. And then a lot of common sense. And this is what we were talking about earlier. Rather than having a degree out of school or university, college, what have you, if you have common sense, And when you see a young person with common sense, it's a beautiful thing to see. And you're a living example of that, Shelley. I mean, so much common sense and first-hand information of history and geography, because you're going to find out for yourself.
Yeah.
That's so true. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, the school systems are going to change very soon. So, you know, everything that we used to learn, that's all going to change. So I don't think people need to be, you know, I'm already almost graduating, but, you know, all of the youngsters, I don't think they're going to need to be homeschooled anymore. I mean, it's going to take time, but obviously, but everything's going to be different.
I've been working with the quantum financial system. And I'd love to see you involved with the quantum educational system. Because
Yes.
when you've got young people, I don't call them children, but young people that have got the wisdom that you have, it's a huge asset when constructing a quantum educational system. And the beauty with a quantum educational system is you're dealing with quantum physics. So each country can put their own history in rather than what another country thinks their history is.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I've learned in my life, especially with Israel and Palestine, is that I've got friends from Palestine, I've got friends from Israel. There's absolutely nothing between them. It's the politicians that have created the hatred between the two.
It's crazy.
It's
crazy. Yeah. I went through in Israel. We lived in Israel. So me and my family lived in Israel in 2014 to like 2016. We went through the war. So it was really scary. And I was like, I remember there were like bombs flying off everywhere and we had to go to this shelter in our building. And I'm like, how could this be? Like, do the Arabs hate us that much? Yeah. And now I get it that, you know, it's not really what's going on. You know, the Muslims have been blamed on, like they have been, you know, ridiculed for so many years. And I realize that it's, you know, just the deep state trying to cause division. So, I mean, it's crazy how much suffering, you know, all these soldiers had to go through and all just to no reason.
For you know, somebody's published in the last week the amount of wars that were started by the Bushes, the Obamas, and the Clintons, and it's shocking. And you look at it. I remember, because of the world that I work in, when the American CIA and the American forces went into Afghanistan to stop the opium trade, or that's how they portrayed it. And they said, "Oh, we're going to give you cotton instead." Well, there's less than 5% of the income from cotton than there was from opium, so that lasted for about 2 months. But you know what was happening behind the scenes. It was they wanted control of the opium trade rather than letting the Afghanis do it. I'm very, very blessed to know two gentlemen who are Afghan nationals. One of them is the ambassador in the United Kingdom, and his brother is the head of the military in Afghanistan for the American military. And I often think about how proud their parents must be of having two sons, one that's a British ambassador and one that's in the military. But they're two of the nicest men you'll ever meet. I mean, as gentlemen, they're just incredible people. And yet we have this, they portray this image of how these people being evil, and they're just not. You know, I had the privilege of meeting Osama bin Laden in my life, and he's one of the most wonderful gentlemen you'll ever meet. I mean, humble, 6'7" tall,
wow,
quiet, and what they were portraying him as is like, it's much the same as they try to portray Donald Trump. When you talk to people who know him,
thing.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. And I wanted to go into, like, let's talk a little bit about, you know, what's going on in Washington, D.C. and in the U.S. So, you know, I think I figured it out.
yeah.
I've been looking forward to this, Shelley, you know, a 17-year-old perspective, because this is
so my brother, well, I came up with this crazy realization. Me and my brother were like brainstorming together. I was up in his room and we were like talking for hours. What do you think's going on? And I think I got it now. So guys, everything's done. So imagine this, there's no two sides anymore.
Correct.
Donald Trump is in control of absolutely everything. And this is what I think, that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they don't work for Trump. They're on his side. They don't work for him. They're just actors.
Yeah.
This is all just a show. It's all like completely a show. And so what you're watching, like people are talking about, oh, they're already building concentration camps in Germany and in the US. Donald Trump is just trying to show what could have happened if the real Joe Biden came into office. So in my opinion, I think what's happening is, you know, he's literally controlling absolutely everything. Like everything. And the inauguration obviously was recorded and everything, you know, we're just watching the biggest show unravel. And so for all of you guys that are kind of feeling let down, trust me, everything, don't question your faith. Don't question it. Even I do sometimes, like, you know, the 10 days of darkness, for example. When is it coming? It was supposed to happen last week, 2 weeks ago. You know, we got to keep our faith. It's going to happen when it's going to happen, but absolutely everything's under control. And there's, I mean, maybe the mainstream media still kind of exists, but, you know, the crooks and everybody that worked in the White House, they're like completely gone. So that's what I think. Aww. What do you think?
I think you're bang on the money. I know you're bang on the money. You might be closer than you think. We may well be in the seventh day of darkness of 10 right now.
Really?
The days of darkness being the Biden showing what damage he could have done. That could be the period of darkness. But
it's not necessarily like 10 days of like nothing. No. That was just what people thought would happen, right. But maybe it's happening now.
I think the darkness is Biden. I think that's the darkness. 10 days of him.
I think so too.
Is the darkness.
This is exactly what I thought.
But you're absolutely right. I've been talking since March last year about the Nasara government. Which I thought Trump would probably call Trump Sarah. But no, he hasn't. He's called it the Patriot Party. And he is the president of that. And Mike Pompeo is the vice president. And there's a guy called John Kennedy, who's the Secretary of State in that party. I don't know which Kennedy that is.
There's many Kennedys.
There is. I think,
I'm like, which one are you talking about?
I don't know, but I think he's a junior one, I think. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
But the Patriot Party is definitely 100% the rolling out of Nasara and Jassara. For anybody that's done any research at all, if you go onto Google Maps or Google Earth and look at the White House, it does tell you that the Oval Office is permanently closed.
Yeah.
The White House looks like an abandoned jail.
Yeah.
It's currently abandoned, but it's going to be used as a jail, I believe.
As the tribunals to take place.
That is insane.
It's absolutely beautiful, and it's all in plain sight.
You know, my dad, who's just recently woken up and now gone onto the YouTube hype, and he loves it rather than the news, because I've been drumming into him that don't watch the news, and every time he tries to share an article, he goes into a moment of fear. But he himself realized very quickly about the inauguration, you know, not having the eyes necessarily initially to sort of see all of this, but Charlie mentioned that he'd seen the inauguration like 10 hours before in Spain. It was aired then. You know, you'd got to at 7 o'clock in the morning on the day of the inauguration, and seeing all these discrepancies and irregularities with the inauguration, it was just, I mean, it doesn't take rocket science to realize that actually the whole thing was a theatrical pantomime.
But how come people don't notice that? Like, I don't get it. Like, most of the world doesn't get it.
Just on that point, somebody pointed out that it was actually that the video that was sent to me claiming which sent 10 hours before the inauguration, was actually filmed 8 years ago at his inauguration as vice president. But what it did do is it provoked everybody to check every detail. And we now found out that four television channels put it out at 4 different times.
Yes.
Starting from 17 minutes to 12 to 4 minutes past 12. And not one of them nailed it on the head and had his hand on the Bible, which happened to be upside down, with the crosses upside down, which is satanic. But not one of them had it at 1 minute past 12, which is in the Constitution. So what it did was, somebody was being a little bit cheeky, a little bit naughty, sending me the video saying this is the inauguration 10 hours before, and it was said to be 10 hours before. But there's a lot of people pointed out that it was actually not 10 hours before, it was 8 years before. And it was when he was.
My brother was saying it's from 20, like they filmed it in 2017 or whatever.
Yeah, something like
but like the fact that they're wearing masks means, like, is it because who was planning? I'm a little confused about that. Like, why are they still?
There's a lot of things, you know. Shelley, one thing that got me on this journey was, it's now 7 years ago that I was told this was going to happen. And then 3 years ago, and then back in November 2019, they told me they were going to do it in 2020. They were going to shut down the world's economy for a global financial reset. And they were very clear about it. What I didn't know, what I was completely unaware of, was there was 2 resets in play. There was the New World Order one, which is the evil, corrupt one. And there was Donald Trump's White Hat's team of good people with a really good financial reset with a gold-backed currency, which is where I was involved. I've been involved, my involvement was moving currency around the world to back the new gold-backed currency, to move the gold around. And so I knew things were happening. And it's like, there was a lady who we spoke to the other day who works in the banks, and she's not under an NDA. She just, I don't know what they're doing, but they're changing everything. Everything's changing. And she just didn't know. And there's been a lot of telltale signs.
There's been so many, and we need to have the lenses now. Like, I mean, it's becoming more than obvious. And what happened after the inauguration was there was the people that clutch onto their titles and to their belief system that, you know, we're a bunch of crazy tinfoil hatters. I mean, it was just a cue for the abuse to really start. And it was, for me, absolutely like, it was laughable.
Mind-boggling.
The inauguration was laughable. It was laughable. I mean, you can take all the other side's abuse, because ultimately, if you've not been doing the work for the last 10 months acutely, then, you know, you're going to be susceptible to this type of like madness. And a lot of people have fallen off the truth community because they're like, oh, we can't trust the plan anymore. This is a lot of nonsense.
Exactly.
So then before, we're not aligned. And Shelley's a Kundalini yoga instructor as well. So she's very in tune.
Oh, cool.
Very in tune with the spiritual compass. So while she gets a little bit confused sometimes, which we all do, like I myself, like got a little bit like, what happened there on the day of the inauguration? I had to sort of go stand back and think, and it taught me not to detach from outcomes, because time all deciphering, discerning what's going on along the way. Things are sort of unraveling, but at nowhere did it say that the first arrest was going to happen at the inauguration. Just how we interpreted it. So we have to sort of sit back and think, okay, not align with any time frames. We've had it for the whole 10 months anyway. We're just being speculative. We're speculating along the way that, okay, this is a possibility. This is how we've interpreted some of the cue drops. And also, we're just truth seekers. We're truth seekers, that we are not adhering to a narrative that the mainstream media is telling us and that has indoctrinated us for years and years and years. And this is the precipice where the great global awakening is happening for humanity. And we're living through the most amazing times. And, you know, when we look back at these times, especially yourself, Shelley, you'll be saying to yourself, what was I doing all this time? You know, what was I doing? I was sat there, you know, speaking with Charlie Ward, speaking with Alpa, speaking to the youth, speaking to my generation, being the impetus for change. And, you know, questioning things when you're confused, you're asking questions, you're not blindsidedly believing the mainstream media. So kudos to you.
Exactly. You know? Thank you. Yeah, just like I knew, like, let me tell you my story first of all, because this is how I got into all of this. You know, ever since I was little, I was always so curious about, you know, the truth. And my family is health conscious, and we always, you know, we're always eating healthy, and we're always like looking for, you know, the truth. And after I went to school, that's when I like I told you, I just couldn't handle it anymore, because I think if I would have been, you know, homeschooled from day one, I wouldn't have really had that drive to like really seek the truth. And so when I went to school and came out, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, what's going on here? And that's it. Like, I'm so curious about everything. And, you know, I listen to, you know, Charlie Freak, I listen to you, Charlie Ward, I listen to Alpa. And, you know, what I do is I listen to your talks, and if it resonates with me, you know, I take it in. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But what I try to do right now is I'm so curious. And yeah, I just, from that point on, you know, I was also, I lived in California and Los Angeles, and I was in Hollywood for a certain period of time. That woke me up even more. I mean, I got to a point where, like, I was about to be really famous, but thank God I kind of stepped back and I changed directions. But yeah, I was in Hollywood, and I could tell you guys some crazy stories, but maybe later. So,
You know,
Yes.
the one thing I've learnt on this journey is that when we hit bumps in the road, rather than shaking our confidence, if we step back and either pray, meditate, or just evaluate,
okay.
rather than be judgmental immediately just because we've hit a bump, then you get so much clarity, so much easier. But we all have this knee-jerk reaction that, what on earth happened there? Oh dear, that's, you know, it's terrible. No, just step back and look at the bigger picture, because I know the destination.
Observe.
Yeah, I know the destination. I just didn't know the journey, and the journey's been bumpy. Big deal. We've hit some rocks in the road. There's been some big rocks, but
Hitting rocks and rocks thrown at us.
Big ones.
oh, we've had plenty of rocks thrown at us. But when you know what the destination is you have a peace inside you that is incredibly special.
Yeah.
And your journey, you're absolutely right, Shelley. You're absolutely right. Had you have not gone through that suffering and understanding early on in life, you would never have appreciated the homeschooling, the education, and the travel is the best thing ever to find out the truth. Because when you go into these places, I was told in Mexico not to go into this place because they would eat me. They'd kill me and eat me. It was really dangerous. And I went, nobody's going to eat me. Nobody's that hungry. And so I went into this place just with an open heart. And they'd all looking at me a bit strange. And I just offered them a beer. And we had a beer together. And within 2 hours, I was at the mum's house having food to eat, having dinner. Because I went in there not judgmental, without aggression, without any attitude or anything. And I was welcome back there anytime I ever wanted to go there. It was a bit nerve-wracking to start with because they were looking at me and I was the odd one out. I've been the odd one out for many years, so it's nothing new to me. I don't mind that.
Well, it's always special. It's always the misfits are the leaders at the moment in the movement. And there was a reason and a purpose that everything that happened in our yesteryears is pivotal and absolutely necessary for us to understand everything on the physical, mental, psychological, spiritual plane. And, you know, for us to navigate our way, you know, in a way that we are now in implicit trust in the divine plan. Yeah, it's a trust in the divine plan and within ourselves. We've, you know, internalized what's going on and we've actually woken up. And I think how we move forward is necessary. So the outside noise that's happening at the moment, you know, this disparity that's going on, we need to sort of stay aligned and recalibrate ourselves and be certain in that knowing.
That's so important.
Be certain and know that this is going to play out the way the divine wants it to play out. So where people are like flaking or falling apart, if things are not happening because it's this attachment to an expectation. Now we say this in the Gita: have no Maya, have no attachment to any outcome. You know, you come empty-handed and you go empty-handed on this plane. It's what you do and the stuff in between that is necessary and that matters. And it's our dharma, it's our duty to how we show up in call to action. So Shelley, you know, you're standing up like this now. Charlie, who's been, you know, instrumental in this movement since March, right at the start, and has had so much thrown at him, and he's still standing tall in the face of all adversity. It's important. Even myself, you know, whatever you get, sometimes Charlie knows that, you know, I was a little bit not really wanting to come in the public eye. I started my journey with Charlie. It was my very first show. If you recall that, Charlie, it was a lot different. And it wasn't about starting a channel or doing any of this. It was just assisting humanity, and especially in my community, to actually wake up to another narrative. So it's so important that you're doing this for your generation. I know personally now, some of my friends are telling me that their kids are just living in a state of fear. And you know, it's completely isolating them from their socialization. And you know, we need connection. We need the human connection. You know, that's what they're doing to us. They're trying to strip us from every form of connection to family, to friends, to what actually keeps us growing and keeps us, you know, united. And it's attack on that unity consciousness. We must not fail ourselves. That's the main thing, no matter what happens, because ultimately we are all we have. And if this falls apart, well, then there's no chance, really.
And the only way we could shift the human collective is if we first fix that part in ourselves. Because when you think about it, sometimes we think, oh, it's just me, right? I'm not really doing anything. You know, I'm just one in 7 billion. But when you shine bright, when you're really sovereign, and when you you really take care of your body, and you really you're at your best, trust me, you're affecting the whole ocean. So it's like, imagine you're a droplet of water in the whole ocean, right? If the droplet falls in, it's going to affect the whole ocean. So that's how we have to imagine ourselves. And, you know, kids are in fear, and that's what, it makes me so sad, but we have to stand up, you know, for our rights. Even kids, you know, we just...
Yeah, I totally agree. And this is the time for every single person. And I love being a pioneer. I love to be the first person to do things. And you're doing exactly that. And it takes courage to do that, to stand up and say, do you know what, I'm going to lead you through here. There's a lot of people, you know, I'm worried about my reputation, Charlie. Yeah, you leave your reputation behind, and we'll show you the way through. But you're a wonderful example of a young person who understands the truth and understands reality. You should be very proud of yourself, because the way that you deliver your message is with confidence and very humble, which is what the world needs right now. There's one half of us that wants to slap them around the face and say, I told you so, but that's not going to be constructive.
Oh, but there are sort of visions that do that. Sometimes we do, because I just feel that post the inauguration, it got even worse, because it was like a cue for them to say, see, you got it all wrong. He's been inaugurated.
That's right. That's right. My family my family thinks my dad's crazy and my mom's crazy and I'm crazy.
Well, I had one of the funny things happen this morning, because for those people who've been following me from the start of this journey, I mentioned on a few occasions about the masks and how useless they were and how they had no value whatsoever. And I said, I wonder how many people, if the government told you to stick a broom up your ass and sweep the streets, would actually do it. And I said, I reckon probably 20%, and another 10% would probably ask for Vaseline so they could enjoy the experience. And then this morning it came out on the news that they found a new way of testing for COVID. They can take a sample from up your ass. And I went, there you go. There you go.
It really,
I mean, it's better than this in the brain. So.
Oh, no.
But they're putting this out on the media and people are buying it.
People are buying it.
That's insane.
Yeah, I got called mentally ill, a radicalized retard. And also the funniest one was, for me, that really made me laugh, was that I'm like Russell Crowe from A Beautiful Mind. Have you seen that film, that movie, A Beautiful Mind?
I've never seen that.
Oh, yeah. He's this really crazy person that pieces together the truth that what happens in I can't remember, I watched it many years ago, but ultimately the irony is that to be called that, he was actually right in the film. He realized that everything that he was told was a lie, so he was a bit eccentric in character. But anyway, I got called mentally ill and like Russell Crowe from A Beautiful Mind, so I took that as a compliment.
Everybody ascends at
Go on, Shelley.
Oh, sorry. Everybody ascends at their own pace, right? So all of those people that you see that are hating on you, they're not really hating on you. No. They just don't want to admit that you're right, to be honest with you. And so I think everybody will ascend at their own pace. We just got to give them a little more time. It's not like magically everyone on earth is enlightened doing meditation. So obviously it takes time, but we just got to continue doing what we're doing. We've got to continue staying sovereign, and don't let those people affect you, because even I have some haters, especially kids my age, who think I'm over the top, I'm too confident, I'm too selfish or whatever. But just don't read the comments, don't do all that stuff.
Absolutely. And that's really important, because you're on social media and the trolling is just so massive, and this is something that we know we need to keep still within our mind and our mental health. Look, this is a destruction of all systems, and for new systems to come in, there has to be a destruction of the old. That's
right.
Yeah, and this is what's happening in every fraternity. Everything is being destroyed and being exposed. So, and how do you show people? Charlie, you said this all the time. You can't tell them. You've got to show them.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just reminded me when you were talking about ascending. You know, Justin, he was told by one of the spiritualists who I've been working with and listening to, that Justin had risen to the 15th dimension some time ago, and he sees things incredibly clearly. So he's very proud of that. And I was doing a speech at one of the events I had gone to with Peggy down here in southern Spain. And I thanked my wife for her support, and I thanked Justin for being there. And he came up on stage and said, just so that everybody knows, I'm on a higher dimension than my mum and dad put together. And I just thought that was so special, because what that did was said that your children can ascend quicker than you sometimes. And it inspired every child out there that if you want to be better than your mum and dad, you can go through the ascension levels by looking inside yourself and finding truth.
Yes, kids are incredible. I mean, and I think that is why, you know, I was talking to Alpa about this. I think that is why, you know, especially these idols and celebrities that kids are so drawn to. These celebrities know that kids are high frequency. Like the systems know that kids are really, you know, special, and they can change the world. I mean, the young generation definitely can, but that's why they target them, because like I said, they're so easy to manipulate, and they'll always listen to authority because they just want to be good kids. They'll always listen to their parents. So that is why all of these systems, you know, target these kids. And especially like the food that kids are eating in the US is absolutely insane. And so what I was telling Alpa is, you know, we've got to teach our kids, we've got to reteach them what's right. And that's what I'm trying to do. Like in my community, I'm trying to teach, like on Instagram, I'm like speaking about spirituality. And, you know, if I could help one kid or one teenager, that means the world to me. So it's really, I like what you said about how he said like the 15th dimension. That's so cute.
Yeah, he's now regarded as a light worker. And I said, well, that comes with a responsibility.
Yeah.
You're going to be called upon to lead people out of the darkness into the light and show them the way. And he said, I'm up for it. I'm ready. And
he's a well-spirited child. I mean, I've met him, and he's just energy is so exuberant, beautiful eyes. You look into his eyes, and he just knows. He knows, and he has this confidence about him, but that's so exuberant that you just want to like just be in his company all the time, because his energy just uplifts you. And it's that frequency, Shelley, that you're so right. And this is where they target children, to lower the frequency, because children's frequency is always high. They're just smiling, always high, laughing. Everything's just so special. I took my niece and nephew to the forest, and they're like, can we live here? My little niece was, I want to live here. Everything was just, oh my God, this is the best day of my life. And they say that every single day. Yep. This is the best thing I've ever seen. Everything is just so jovial and happy. And the education system just wants to stunt that and absolutely
abuse them as much as possible. That's what the education system is doing.
Mess them up. That actually now I feel the other side, we look at it with compassion and as much as we can with that empathy, that actually it's not their fault. They've been so indoctrinated, be it the adults, be it even the children. But while it's very easy to get annoyed, and we're human beings as well, you know, we also have been infiltrated ourselves with these constructs of the cabal. Yeah, where there's so many things in our day-to-day habits that are the paradigms and the constructs of a cabal-based system, and we are just unlocking and unweaving ourselves out from that as well. You know,
finally,
it's not been easy even for the people that are the light workers, because while they're trying to, you know, realize, oh my God, not knowing, you know, that this has been happening on the planet. For myself, I've been having a spiritual journey for 10 years, but in terms of what the details of what's been going on in governments and the level of corruption that was happening, I was ignorant myself. And Charlie, as you know, and that's what motivated me to speak to Charlie. Charlie spoke up about it. He only had 40, 50 followers when he was in the park back then. And then look where he is now. It's by speaking up and talking about, hang on a minute, this is not right. And the news is not telling you the truth. The government is lying, and having the guts to do that. And that's what you're doing. So we're all like weaving ourselves out from this, but we're doing something about it. And it's that call to action. So that's really important.
Yes. And I think the more of us that do speak up, the more of us that we don't need to have like 8 million followers. We just have to start. The more of us that speak up, the faster we could, ascend. Because we are literally ascending like day by day. I would say millions after millions are waking up. Like maybe right now there's like another million on earth that woke up. So we're ascending super quickly, but we could do it even faster if more of us speak up, more of us come together, more of us share our voices, come together as a community. We need to support each other a lot right now.
We do, and the numbers have never flicked my switch. That's not what it was about.
Exactly.
It was about getting the message out.
Yep.
And I always think, if I can give you one person the message, they give it to, or two people, you give it to two, you give it to two, you give it to two.
Spreads like that.
It grows very, very quickly. I've been very blessed with the numbers, for sure, and it comes with a lot of responsibility. That we try and establish the truth. We do our level best, and there will be times when people feed us information. I know that one of the ambassadors purposely fed me false information as a distraction. Now, I don't mind being used as a distraction. That's fine by me. If it makes the end goal quicker, then use me all day long. It doesn't bother me. I'm quite happy to be used and abused as long as we get through this as quickly as possible to take away people's fear, because fear will kill you.
Yeah.
Fear is like the lowest frequency consciousness. Love is the highest frequency consciousness.
Yeah. And then that unity. Before we go, I'm conscious of time. I just think that you raised a really good point there, Shelley, about idolization of celebrity, and how that has happened so much in society, especially with the advent of social media over the last 10 years, and what that's done to the youth of today to actually trust celebrity over and above themselves. So, just expound on that a little bit for us, because with what you're doing spiritually and with your teachings of Kundalini, I mean, 17-years old Charlie, and she's this Kundalini instructor.
Incredible.
That's amazing. And I mean, I shared that video with Charlie yesterday. What a great program that you've set up.
Oh, thank you. I would love to talk about that.
Yeah, the initiative, Charlie, she's just so inspirational. And that's why I really
thank you so much, Alpa.
Wanted her voice to get out. And I said, you must speak to Charlie Ward. He's going to absolutely adore you, because what you've done there is you've used your initiative to inspire people. You're not claiming that you know everything. You're realizing that actually, guys, just learn to trust yourself and not idolize false idols. And that's right. When you were talking to me on a one-to-one, that just blew me away. So yeah, just a final thought there.
Yeah, first of all, the course that I created, I created it with the sole purpose of, helping kids and teens, find out who they really are. And especially with, everybody's at home, kids are learning from home. They get bored and they're in fear and they just don't know where to turn. And I created this course as like a guide, like a compass for, kids, teens, and young adults. And I want this course to, my goal is to put this course, it's called the Health, Happiness, and Home Guide for Kids, Teens, and Young Adults. I want to put this in schools, like it could be as a part of, kids' curriculums. And so it's about 5 hours long and it's fun. It's not like a course where it's like you just learn nonstop. Kids hate that. So what I did is I really thought about it. Like, how am I going to make this in a way where it's fun to watch, entertaining, easy to understand, easy to digest? And that's exactly what I did. So it's basically like watching a movie. Like anybody could do it. A 5-year-old could do it. 16-year-old could do it. That's why I created this course, because I see kids struggling. I see kids out there not doing really well, and I really, really want to help. So the information will be linked down below if you guys would like to sign your kids up or any of that.
I will share it 100%. And I would
Thank you.
you're the first person that I've talked to that I would consider putting you on a Zoom conversation with Justin.
Justin, I think I know.
Just to put the story out to the young children.
Brilliant.
One thing I would say to every child in the world and every adult who's watching this, don't be afraid of making mistakes. When you learn nothing in life from success, you learn everything from failure. If you come to a T-junction in life and you don't know which way to turn, make a decision, turn one way or the other. And if you've turned the wrong way, don't be ashamed. Just turn around and come back and go back the right way. And then later on in life, when you come to the same T-junction, you'll know which way to turn. But don't be afraid of making mistakes, and don't be shamed by making mistakes. These are all things that make you grow. But I would love to do a little video with you and Justin.
That would be brilliant.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much. I would
brilliant.
love to do that.
I'll have a little chat with him and have a chat with his mum and see what she says. But that's something I think would be very special for the young children nowadays. Be absolutely brilliant. But it's been
we could do like a collab or something, you know, with this. Yeah, I think it'd be really good because you've got, you know, a 17-year-old. And how old is Justin? He's 11. 11, right? Yeah, what a beautiful age. What a special age spiritually.
That could attract so many young people.
I think so. That was the main reason I, you know, thought Shelly needs to be, you know, known about, and that
100%
energy that she's got. Parents watching this, you know, all the parents that are watching this. When Shelly came onto my show, a lot of people messaged me. Unfortunately, they disabled the comments on YouTube, so I couldn't hear the feedback. But people wrote into me over Facebook and said, you know, what an amazing inspiration. I actually showed the video to my children, and it really helped them. So, like you said, even if it's helping 2-3 people, that's the start. Those 2-3 people will speak to other people. And so, I love you for that. And Charlie, of course, love you always, and always being there and, you know, uplifting people, and, you know, huge in this truth movement. So thank you everybody.
Brilliant. Well, thank you guys. It's been a real pleasure, Shelly. It's been an honor and a pleasure to get to know you, and we'll be in contact again, and we'll put the links down below to Shelly's website and her courses here, and this will help if you're watching this now and you've got children. This is one for them to watch so that they can learn so much about what's going on.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it today.
Thank you.